I used to think home was a place where you were loved without condition, that no matter how broken, confused, or scared you were, your family would be the net to catch you. I believed that until the day my parents turned my childhood bedroom, the only space I'd ever really felt was mine, into a guest suite for my older brother. And just like that, they showed me what I really meant to them: a placeholder, a convenience, someone they could push aside when something more important came along. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. It wasn't even a conversation. I'd just come back from running errands, grocery store, pharmacy, dry cleaner, all the little tasks I did without them asking. I walked in carrying dinner ingredients, humming to myself, thinking maybe I'd cook for them that night. But the moment I stepped through the door, something felt off. There were boxes in the hallway, my boxes, labeled in my mom's neat handwriting: clothes, books, miscellaneous. My lamp, my posters, my journals, all packed up and stacked like I was moving out. And there, standing in my doorway, was Nate, my older brother, the golden boy. He grinned like nothing was wrong, like this was totally normal, like it was his room now and always had been. "Hey sis," he said. "Thanks for clearing out so fast." I blinked. "What?" Mom walked in, smiling like a hostess giving a house tour. "Doesn't it look nice? We thought it was time to repurpose your room. You're grown now. Nate needs a space to reset, and the guest room just isn't big enough for him to focus." It was like the air was sucked out of the room. No discussion, no warning. I had been erased. Nate had failed again. His third business collapsed, leaving him broke, jobless, and somehow still their pride and joy. He always landed softly, no matter how high he fell. Meanwhile, I had worked 2 jobs through school, graduated early, took care of my younger cousin when Mom's sister got sick, and still helped with groceries when I could. And yet, I was the one getting displaced. "You can stay in the basement," Dad said, like it was a compromise, like I should be grateful. But the basement had no windows, no heat. It was damp, cramped, and full of old boxes and holiday decorations. I wasn't angry in that moment. I was hollow. I nodded, set the grocery bags on the counter, walked up to my now empty room, and sat on the bare mattress that used to be mine. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, listening to Nate's music through the wall he'd already claimed as his. At dawn, I made a decision. I packed the rest of my things into my car and left. No announcement, no dramatic scene, just a quiet exit from a house that had never really felt like mine to begin with. The next few months were hard. I crashed on a friend's futon, worked long shifts at a diner, and taught myself freelance graphic design at night. I'd wake up to aching joints and go to sleep with headaches, but I never stopped. Every email from my parents went unread. Every call from Nate went unanswered. I'd built a wall, not out of hate, but out of necessity. One night, after a brutal double shift, I opened my laptop to find an email. "Congratulations! You've been accepted into our digital entrepreneurship program." I stared at the screen for minutes, tears welling up. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because for the first time in my life, I had done something for me. And it was working. That course changed everything. I started a small business helping local shops build their branding. It grew. I got clients in other cities, then other countries. I moved into my own 1-bedroom apartment, filled it with plants, art, music, the kind of life I used to dream about when I lay in that cold basement. And I was happy. Peacefully, powerfully happy. But the real twist? That came 2 years later, when a resume landed in my inbox, from Nate. I almost didn't believe it, but there it was. His name, his summary, his clunky attempts to sound competent. He didn't recognize my company name. He didn't know I owned it. He was just blindly applying to jobs, desperate, probably sent by our parents who had finally realized he wasn't the savior they imagined. He'd hit rock bottom. And I was the boss now. I didn't hire him. I didn't even respond. Instead, I forwarded the resume to my parents with a simple note. "Looks like Nate's looking for help. I hope you saved a room for him." They never replied, but I didn't need them to. Because I'd built a life so full of love, respect, and freedom, they were no longer part of the picture. And they never will be again. I didn't expect peace to come from silence, but it did. In the space where I once cried for my parents' approval, I now felt freedom. The kind of freedom that comes not just from moving on, but from becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. And in that space, I built something that no longer needed them. Months passed after I received Nate's job application. I hadn't heard from them, not from him, not from my parents. And I didn't go looking. But then, as life often does, fate decided to stir the pot. One evening, just as I was reviewing pitches for a new client campaign, my assistant messaged me. "You have a visitor." I frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. "Who?" I typed. "Your parents. And your brother." My hands froze over the keyboard. I hadn't seen them in almost 3 years. And now they were here, at my office. I took a breath and stood. I wasn't scared. I wasn't angry. I was curious. When I entered the lobby, I saw them all. My mom, dressed like she'd just stepped out of a country club luncheon, trying to smile as if nothing had happened. My dad, uncomfortable in a blazer, holding a folder like it was a peace offering. And Nate, he looked like a shadow of his former self. Sunken eyes, messy hair, defeated posture. It was jarring. "Wow," Mom said, her eyes glancing around the modern space. "You've done well for yourself." Dad stepped forward. "We didn't realize how far you'd come. Until recently." Nate didn't look up. I kept my face neutral. "What do you want?" There was a long pause. Mom cleared her throat. "We came to apologize." Those words. They floated in the air, unfamiliar and almost foreign coming from her lips. "We didn't know how badly we treated you," she continued. "We thought we were doing what was best for the family, giving Nate a chance to bounce back." "At my expense," I interrupted calmly. Dad nodded. "You're right. And we see that now. When Nate's last venture collapsed and we couldn't help him anymore, he told us he'd applied to your company. He didn't even know it was yours." Nate finally spoke. "I didn't recognize the name. I just needed a job." And then Mom looked it up and we realized... I looked at my brother, really looked at him. For the first time in our lives, the shine was gone. He wasn't arrogant. He wasn't smirking. He looked like someone who had hit the end of the road and didn't know where to turn next. "I didn't come here to beg," he added. "I came here because I wanted to see for myself. You made something out of nothing. You became the person I always said you couldn't be. And I was wrong." It was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever heard from him. My parents remained quiet. This wasn't easy for them. Admitting they were wrong had never been in their DNA. But here they were, humbled, unsure, and standing in a lobby they probably never imagined would belong to me. I let the silence sit for a moment. Then I said, "I accept your apology." My mother blinked, surprised. My father looked relieved. Nate simply exhaled. "But," I continued, "that doesn't mean we go back to how things were. I've built this life without you, and I'm not going to pretend those years didn't shape me. I was disposable to you, and I had to learn to value myself when the people who were supposed to never did." They nodded. Mom wiped away a tear. Dad looked like he'd aged 5 years just standing there. "As for Nate," I said, turning to him, "I'm not going to offer you a job out of pity, but I will offer you an internship, entry level, no special treatment. If you really want to start over, prove it." He swallowed hard and nodded. "Thank you, I will." They left not long after. No hugs, no promises, just a fragile truce hanging in the air. That was a year ago. Since then, Nate kept his word. He showed up every day, early, humble, willing to learn, and over time, something strange happened. We became, not friends, but allies. 2 people with the same past, but finally writing different futures. As for my parents, they stayed distant. Maybe from guilt, maybe from pride, maybe both. And that was okay. I didn't need them to clap for me anymore. I had built a life they were never invited to, and that was the point. Because healing doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it just means moving forward without the people who once held you back. And in doing so, you create something stronger, something brighter, something that is wholly and beautifully yours. And for the first time in my life, I was no longer just someone's daughter or sister. I was my own person, my own success, my own home, and they were just visitors to a world they never truly